Hey everybody, Kevin here from Expedition Hemispheres, where we talk about anything from hiking to traveling the globe, camping, outdoors in general. Today we're going to be talking about sleep systems. Okay, so with sleep systems, there's actually an awful lot you can keep in mind. So generally speaking, from back when you were a kid, maybe you had your first sleeping bag and you could take that to friends' houses, or you could even go on a short camping trip where you're kind of camping out of the car, you're in one local place, and it served its purpose fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with those. Purpose is really what drives choices in a sleep system. So knowing where you're gonna go, what the temperature's gonna be like, is it gonna be hot, is it gonna be cold? Is it going to be varied and you're really not sure? Another thing to keep in mind is it going to be humid? Is it guaranteed to rain a lot? So the reason I mention all those things is in advanced sleep systems today, there's a lot of options out there that can really cater specifically to that purpose. So knowing where it is that you're going to be, what it is that you're going to be doing, you'll come up with a list of things that is going to be most likely most important to you on that particular trip. And you can really cater to those needs in today's advanced sleep systems. We're going to cover all that today, and we're going to go in depth into a couple of particular products as well around that. So we're going to start from the ground up. We're going to talk about sleeping mats. So there's two basic kinds of sleeping mats that you want to be thinking about. There's the old school one, which is still relevant, but it's the closed cell. So it's going to be looking like a yoga mat, maybe a little bit thicker, and they kind of fold up. And then today we're specifically going to be showing you an air mattress. So we vastly prefer these for a couple different reasons. The weight between a closed cell and an air mattress is going to be pretty similar depending on which one you go with. But the real advantage is going to be the quality of the sleep and the padding that you get, and also the versatility in this packing down so small. It takes up way less room in the pack, which, as you can imagine, is advantageous. This particular product is Sea to Summit. Use Sea to Summit almost exclusively for my sleep system. Pretty much everything I have is through them. It's just a brand that I've grown to love. They've got a great reputation. The quality is top notch. This particular Ultralight Air is what it's called. It's going to be a lower insulation value, so this is more of a warm weather mattress, but it does have some versatility to it. So one of the things that you want to think about when you're getting an air mattress is they're kind of given different R values. And so you want to look at, it's normally going to be a number like 1.7 or 2.9. The higher the number, the more insulation you get. So the cooler weather, the more you want. Now, when you go up in insulation value, you're also going to be heavier. So there's a mattress that is exactly like this that packs down almost to the same size, but it's quite a bit heavier, and that weight is going to be giving you literally that separation from the ground, which is what keeps you warm. So one thing that most people don't know that's really important to know about sleeping mats before I open this up and show you what's going on, about 40% of your insulation is the mat that you're sleeping on. So the sleeping bag, if you can imagine a sleeping bag, the part that you're laying on is not fluffy anymore because you're laying on it. It's flattened out. So the fluffy part that's actually keeping you warm in this scenario is going to be the mattress below you. So if it's got more insulation built into it, that's what's going to shield you from the elements from below. Obviously, the sleeping bag on top of you is nice and fluffy because it's not being pressed down by your body, and that's clearly what gives you the insulation like a blanket. So as we go into this, there's a couple things. It opens from both ends. One end is kind of a little storage area, and it's where I keep my patches. So with these kinds of mats, opposed to a closed cell, is that they can get punctures. So I always they come with it, but I like to keep a couple patches in case I get a little puncture. I can always seal those off and not, have the rest of my trip with no mat to sleep on. They're ultra lightweight. You can even take them out of the baggies and consolidate and lose the paperwork that's in there, and that'll take your weight down as well. So that's on one end. On the other end, obviously it opens up and the mat comes out. So these are a little bit tricky the first couple times to fold up and get fit in, but once you kind of got your routine down, honestly, they just roll up and go right on in. While I've got this in my hand, I actually put my headlamp inside here at night and zip it up and hang it from the roof of my tent, and it makes a really sweet light. It kind of glows yellow and illuminates everything instead of being like a spotlight swinging around all over the place. Just a pro tip there. This mattress just unrolls. Normally I fold it in half like a hot dog and then just roll it up, and that's generally just about right to get it back in the bag, by the way. And once you, like I said, once you play with it a few times, it goes in there nice and easy. Okay, so there is one thing additional about the bag that I'll tell you about. With Sea to Summit, they use the bag that stores it as an option to use as a pump to actually force air into this bag and then shoot it into the mat. The only reason you would ever want to use this, and it's a good reason, is that you don't put your mouth up to the mat and end up getting spittle inside your bag, which could eventually it could eventually mold and things like that. So it keeps the internals really clean. I will tell you, it takes a few times using the bag like that. The instructions are literally drawn on the bag. I personally don't do it. And the reason I don't do it is it's a little bit finicky for me. And it's like I gotta fluff this bag, hook it up to the air mattress, push it down, repeat. I've seen people use it like a dream. I personally just get really frustrated with it, and I just do my best to make sure I don't blow spit into my mattress, but I just use my mouth and blow it up. I love the plugs they use on these Sea to Summit. That's one of the things that is better than some of the other mats that I've had. It's got a main plug which just covers the hole, but it also has a top that pops off. So it's like two different layers. The first one just opens it up. You would do that to empty it out because the air would come out. If you put that one in, but the top one's off, it's a one-way valve. So as I'm blowing this up, all the air stays in and none comes out. So you can really take your time. You're not blowing out your lungs at altitude, and you can take your time getting it filled. Another thing too is it makes it kind of handy for like fine tuning how much air you have in there. You can get it nice and hard, but once you've slept on these a couple times, there's actually a little magical place that you can have a little bit of rebound left in it so it's not as taut, and you'll actually have a little bit more comfort. That's all personal preference and completely subjective. But the last time I was actually out, I had mine really hard, and I tend to roll around when I sleep, unfortunately. No matter how hard I try to stay on my back, I never do. The valve at the top, I just reached my hand up there and opened it slowly and just let it hiss for a second and plugged it back, and I was perfect. So I would say, if anything, go pretty firm, lay down on it, feel it out, and you can always check and adjust. It's not that big of a deal. They do sell these mats in longs for you tall folks out there, so kind of just look at the measurements that they list for you, and you'll be able to find the one to make sure that you're gonna fit on there. They do also make some women's specific sleep mattresses, which is just like the bags that they make that are women's specific. And just, it took me a long time to figure out like what in the world would be the difference between a woman's bag. But what they do is they make the shoulder area a little bit more narrow. That way you don't have a lot of room between you and, there's still room to move, but it keeps you warmer, and it's a little bit wider in the hips. So this particular mattress that you're looking at, we'll blow up here in a minute and show you what it looks like, but this is an ultralight. So this is like my utilitarian go-to bag. I'm a warm sleeper, so it's gonna take really, really cold weather for me to go with something rated down to super cold. I sleep very warm, and so this is probably like 80–90% of the time gonna be the mat that I take with me, even in relatively cool temperatures. That's not gonna be the same for everybody, so if you're somebody that like tends to get cool at night, you're gonna wanna think about going with a mat that may be a little bit heavier and give you a little bit more of that insulation value I was talking about earlier. The reason I love the ultralight is, A, the reason I just told you, I'm a warm sleeper, and B, it's ultralight. When you're backpacking and hiking, grams and ounces is what it comes down to. You're not losing pounds, but you shave grams and ounces off of items throughout your bag, add it all up, and that's where you really start digging into the weight, especially with some of these bigger items like sleeping mats, sleeping bags. They take up space in the bag, they add weight. So those are all really important things to keep in mind. All right, guys, so it's just about as simple as it looks. I'm gonna blow this up for you so you can kind of see how it goes. I'll even adjust it a little so you can kind of see what I was talking about earlier. Okay, and you can kind of see as I let go there, it just keeps its plumpness. You normally have a little bit of misshape. Don't worry about that. You put your sleeping bag on top of it and get on top of it. It works itself out. You can see I still have the top and it's holding the air. So to adjust, I would actually go ahead and close that and use the main and just slip it. Nice and slow. Let a little bit of air out and close. So you can get a little bit more rebound in there. Again, like I said, that's for personal feel. So you'll just have to kind of play with that and find out what's comfortable. But you can see you got a nice broad shoulder spot. So your shoulders are gonna fit on, and it tapers off for your legs. So it's all made for practical shape, the shape of your body. And you know, you'll find a lot of mats that are perfect rectangles. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. But that's part of what makes this an ultralight, is they're really shaving off those areas in order to keep them as compact as possible, but still gonna fit your body in its entirety. So that's pretty much everything about sleep mats. This is my favorite. I pretty much take it with me everywhere. Next, we're gonna keep going up, and we're gonna cover quilts, and we're gonna cover sleeping bag itself, and talk to you about the difference between those two. So we got the mat, now we're moving into a bag. So this particular bag, like I was talking about earlier, Sea to Summit, it's a Zpacks SP1. It's like an 850 plus down, non-synthetic, so it's actual feather. They come in regular and long, just like the mats. This particular bag is rated to 40 degrees. So a lot of people talk about degree ratings in bags. Really, there's a range in which it's gonna be comfortable. So, and it's also personal as well. So for me, I'm comfortable in this bag below 40. So that's where it's rated, and I would say that's actually a really good rating of like the average and where it's gonna keep you warm. I can go down to anything above freezing in this and be fine. There are some options we'll talk about later that give me some more versatility in this bag, but right now let's just dig into it and I'll show you what we got going on. So this is exactly how it ships. It comes in a bag just like this where it's not packed down. So this is essential when you're keeping an actual down bag over a synthetic bag, is you're gonna lose the ability for the bag to re-plush itself if you keep it compact all the time. And that's important because that fluffiness of the bag is where the insulation value actually comes from. So you always keep it stored in something where it's not completely compressed. So as you open up, there's a couple things in the bag. Obviously the sleeping bag itself, and it's stuff sack and compression. So it allows you to get it down really small and keeps it nice and tidy. There's a couple other things in here like care and that kind of thing. But for right now, I'll just show you what we got going on here. So this particular bag is made to fit exactly on this mat. So there's a couple features in here that are going to be important. There's a bungee up top that allows you to cinch down if it's cool, keep you nice and not catching a draft. The other thing is over the tops of the zippers, there's buttons that allow you to click down so you're not having the zippers fly around on you while you're sleeping. Sometimes you make an adjustment and zzz, your bag starts coming undone. So it's just a nice little spot to have there. The zippers on these are actually great. So one of the things that you'll find on a lot of bags is when you're zipping and unzipping, they're always getting caught. So in this particular bag, I've had good experiences with it. It's not impossible to get caught up on this bag, but they did leave just enough room around the seams to where you can go up and down with the zipper, and your chances of getting caught are a lot less than normal. This particular bag is not full zip, so it zips to probably right about your waist, so that's it. I prefer 3/4 zip over full because that's also keeping your weight down. You gotta understand, probably the heaviest single piece on this is the zipper. So like the less zipper they put in, the less weight it has. So it's really gonna cut down. And I think it goes low enough to where you can always fold open and get your chest exposed if you're warm, which is the easiest way to cool off. All your core temperature is kept up in your core. So if you can kind of open that up and you can get to breathing, it's normally just enough. Goose down and some of the material here is extremely lightweight. One of the things I like about it is it's going to be able to do really well at bringing the moisture your body's naturally creating while you're warm at night, and it helps it breathe through the bag without letting cold air in. So it's kind of hard to explain because the bag is breathable, but it's the heat that you're creating is actually enough to evaporate most of the moisture you're creating as well. So it does a pretty good job of breathing, for lack of a better term, or keeping you dry while you sleep even though you're getting warm. Yeah, so that's everything as far as the bag is concerned. There's another option that through a little bit of experience we decided to go with for mat setup. I think it's actually a little bit better than this for a couple reasons. So let's get into that. I'll talk to you about the differences and why we decided to have him go that way. And yeah, we'll take a look. Now we're going to be looking at something that's actually becoming really popular in the ultralight community, and for good reason. It's versatile, it's super duper light, and it's perfectly practical. I was talking to you earlier about your insulation and how it works. So when you're laying inside a traditional sleeping bag, you're mushing down all of the stuffing below you because you're laying on it. So it's really giving you no insulation below you. Your insulation is coming sheerly from your sleeping mat. So that begs the question, why do I have the bottom of a sleeping bag? Why don't I just sleep in a quilt? And that's what we've got here. It's the same as a sleeping bag. There is literally just not a bottom portion. It attaches to the sleeping mat, which we'll show you, and it covers the top of you and wraps around plenty. There's no drafting, and it's just cutting off a ton of material. So you save a ton of weight on literally a section of the bag that does you no good at all. So this one is packed down. It could go maybe a teeny bit smaller, but this is about it. This is also a Sea to Summit. It's called the Ember EB. It's also an 850 plus cover, so it's going to keep you warm down to about the same temperatures. It's got compression built into it, so you can really cinch it down nice and tight. So I'm gonna start unpacking it here and kind of show you what we got going on. So from here, it's just a clamshell. We'll get into it. So it's gonna look almost identical. The materials are the same, like I was talking about earlier. It's also an 850 plus fill, so it's got the same loft in the bag itself. So I'm gonna show you from the bottom. This is the part that your body would be touching, but I just have it inverted right now because I wanna show you these clips. As it goes down in sections, there's 3 or 4 sections of clips, and what they're there for is they kind of wrap around the mat, which I'll totally show you, and clip together. That's what kind of keeps your quilt in place so it's not sliding all over the place, and it's not like this super slippery blanket that you're trying to lay over you. It's actually gonna be able to hold down really nicely. So on the other side, you just flip over here, you can kind of get a look. You can see how it fits right over the sleeping mattress itself. And then from here, you would just take those straps that I just showed you and attach them underneath the mat. It helps keep it in place. So you're laying directly on the mat, and then you have your fill up top. The Ember that we have here is actually good to 50 degrees, so it's supposed to keep you warm to 50. So that's, although it's the same fill, it's slightly less warm than the other bag. I think this is just rated down to the variability in what kind of mat you're on. Matt and I were sleeping in the same weather, and we were both kind of in and out of how much we had laid over our torso. We were in relatively warm temperatures, but I would say these are really, really similar in what kind of weather they're gonna keep you warm in with having the same fill. I have 0 issues with the bag that I have, and I'm gonna keep on using it for quite some time because it's a really nice bag. I do love it. But I think if you're trying to shave some of those grams and ounces that I was talking about earlier that end up adding up in your kit of total weight, this is a really great way to go. All the major brands are pretty much putting out quilts now for this reason, and I think it's definitely something that you would want to check out if you were looking to get into a sleep system. Since Matt's the one that actually sleeps under this bad boy, we'll bring him out here and give you a little bit of update from a personal perspective.
Yes, 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 yes. My little baby. It's not much to look at, but it does do the job, that's for sure. I'd say, I think, Kevin, you've pretty much covered everything that is so important and awesome about this bag. It's the first time I've ever had a bag that doesn't have a back to it. I think my only real complaint when we were hiking and it was the warmer weather was that I was a little warm and just a little bit of sweat on my back made it a little sticky against the plastic of the air mat. But recently you found some stuff that I'm really excited to try out. You sent it to me and I was like, buy. So
yeah, absolutely.
I guess we can talk a little bit about like what that is and maybe show that off.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there is a nice workaround that Sea to Summit's come up with. It integrates perfectly into their sleep system, but quite frankly, it's a liner and it would work with any sleep system that you wanted to use. This particular one that I'm looking at right now is called a CoolMax adapter. What this is going to do is it's going to help regulate your temperature. So not only will it keep you warmer in cool weather, it's going to keep you cooler in hot weather as well. And referring to the sticky sleeping on the mat, this is kind of going to solve that problem. So instead of being straight on that plastic, you're on this really nice soft material that is a moisture wicking material, and it's going to give you that extra layer of comfort. It's basically like a bed sheet for your sleeping mat, but ultra light. So there's a couple different options you can use this. You can use it like a bag that you get inside and then have your quilt on top of you. But the one thing that I was kind of pondering is, especially in warm temperatures, you might not want to be inside of this. You always have the option of actually putting your sleep mat into the CoolMax adapter itself. So your sleep mat slides in, and it's basically just like a cover for that sleeping mat, so you're no longer sleeping straight on that plastic. So it could be used either way. That's just going to be down to you experimenting and finding out what you like. But we're really excited to give these a shot on our next trip. We're going to be taking them with us, and I think it's going to come in really handy. So one of the things that I notice no matter what when I'm sleeping, being a warm sleeper, whether I'm in freezing temperatures or hot temperatures, I'm always creating moisture, and like sleeping sticky is disgusting. I hate it. It'll keep me up at night. And I really think that this is going to do a lot to help with that. It's just that tiny bit to bring the moisture off your body, and then the warmth that you're creating is going to evaporate that moisture, and you should stay nice and dry and comfortable. I was really excited about this particular one. I do also want to cover another liner that I have. Sea to Summit has several different liners. I don't have all of them, but a lot of them are designed to give you more insulation. So you could take a 40-degree rated bag, which was what I was showing you earlier, or the 50-degree quilt here, and you can add this Reactor Extreme. And this is going to give you like plus 15 to 25. I can't actually remember the number. I'm going to have to look at it and I'll get you those details. But it's going to keep you significantly warmer. And it looks just like this, except this particular one being less designed around just moisture wicking and general comfort. This one's specifically designed to give you a higher insulation value. So you'd be able to use that 40-degree bag down to 30 degrees, which is a big temperature swing and a lot of versatility added without having to buy an entire new bag or an entire new quilt. You just pick up a liner, sleep inside the liner, which is inside your bag or under your quilt, and you're going to immediately add massive amounts of insulation. So it looks a lot like the one that I'm just showing you right now. In fact, it's exactly the same, but just picking up and feeling the material, it's obviously slightly heavier, so it's going to give you that insulation value. I think the versatility that these are going to offer you is huge. So it can be daunting to be like, well, I want to do some cool weather camping, and I also want to camp in the summer sometimes, and it's like, you end up with like 4 different sleeping bags rated at different things. If you can get a sleeping bag that's rated at a good general temperature that's going to give you the most availability for most of the trips you go on, that's where you want to start. And then you fine tune using a different liner, and that's going to either keep you cooler and work with that moisture, or it's going to keep you warmer if you're going into a colder temperature. I would say I would need a new bag or a new quilt if I was going to be in the teens consistently every night, which is certainly plausible on certain trips. But until I go on a trip like that, I'm probably just going to stick with this sleep system and run with different liners, especially if, let's say it's a little bit cooler. I can always use one of my, like my Nano Puff jacket and lay it over my torso. So you can always use some adaptability from your clothing setup as well. Obviously not ideal. You want your sleep system to do the bulk of the work for you, but I think if I was a couple degrees cool, it would be easy for me to, make sure I'm wearing a hat over my head so I'm not losing all my heat. And you got some options as far as that concerned. So these are really versatile. I think they're going to be great. And yeah, really glad to be able to share it with you. So we've been building from the ground up. We've gone through the mat. We've gone through the quilt or sleeping bag. We've hit up the options that the liners give us. The one thing that iced the cake for me when I'm sleeping is making sure that I have a nice pillow or something to rest my head on. So as far as pillows, there's actually a lot of options out there. Sea to Summit has some really good options, inflatable pillows that are nice and light. I decided to consolidate in the way that I went, and I found a product that's really cool, I think. It's a stuffed sack that I keep my clothes in, like just general packing when I'm on the move. I put my clothes in that pack. It's a dry bag, so it's made out of Dyneema, and it'll roll down and compress a little bit. It's pretty much the perfect size. Right now I have it in the pillow mode, so on one side of the bag it's got a nice fleece so you can lay your head on. So any of the clothes that I'm not wearing that don't need to be dried out, that are just not being worn while I'm sleeping, I put in the bag, makes a perfect pillow. It's nice and soft on my head. I can even kind of crunch it up and like finagle it a little. It seems to work really well. And when I'm done sleeping and I'm packing up, I'll open this up, pour the clothes out real quick, turn it inside out, and it's fully waterproof. So it's Dyneema on both sides if you turn it inside out. So that's going to keep your clothes dry while you're hiking in case it rains or anything like that. So it's a really good practical solution. I'm already going to need to carry a bag that's waterproof that keeps my clothes so my clothes aren't wet. And to be able to double as a pillow, it's just one less thing that I have to carry. So I really like this. It's sold by Zpacks. They're a really great ultralight brand. I would say one of the heavy hitters in the ultralight community, and they make really good stuff. So this is a really nice, practical option that consolidates gear, and that's what I really loved about it. That covers just about everything that we could think of as far as sleep systems go, especially with the specific things that we covered today. One thing to keep in mind is, like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of different purposes that can be served with sleep systems. So whether you're sleeping in a hammock, whether you're sleeping in a tent, whether you're sleeping under the stars, all these things are gonna give you potentially different options to go with. There's a lot of stuff out there. I think what we tried to do today, and I think hopefully we did it successfully, was to kind of let you know our train of thought. And I think that's really what's going to drive you into making good decisions for yourself, is having an idea of how it is you go about thinking about this, not necessarily the exacting things we showed you today, although these are really well-rounded pieces and that's why we went with them. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Feel free to comment down below. We're going to do our best to respond to those. Friendly reminder, the links to all the stuff that we covered today are going to be in the description down below. Until next time, have fun adventuring.